सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। चैतन्यं सर्वगं सर्वं सर्वभूतगुहाशयम् यत्सर्वविषयातीतं तस्मै सर्वविदे नमः। Verse number 13. सुषुप्तवज्जागृतियो न पश्यति द्वयन्तु पश्यन्नपि चाद्वयत्वतः तथा च कुर्वन्नपि निष्क्रियश्चयः स आत्मविन्नान्य इतीह निश्चयः। This is a description of a Jivan Mukta, one who is liberated while he is alive in this body. Example is Sushuptavat, like a person who is sleeping, Dvayayo Dvayam na Pashyati. Just as a deep sleeper does not see, does not perceive or does not experience Dvayam or duality, division. What obtains there is just one non-dual existence, although covered in the veil of ignorance, but still there is no experience of duality or division or limitedness. That is experience of freedom. It is experience. It has happened because of the act of nature, but this is an example. Not that Vedanta means that one who is asleep is liberated or something, but it serves as a good example to understand what liberation of freedom is. Sushuptavat yo dvayam na pashyati. But Jagrati, so this is all right. Even a wise person also has the same kind of experience in deep sleep. The difference is Jagrati in the waking state. Dvayam Pashyan, the wise person perceives the duality, experiences the duality which is presented before him by his sense organs and mind, so that he also does the vyavahara interaction with the world as any other person would do. Yona Pashyati. And still, even though he perceives duality, he does not perceive the duality. Because there is no duality. There is duality and still there is no duality. There is duality, Ishvara Srishti, which is an appearance. Where one appears as many, this is Ishvara Srishti. And because of ignorance, an ordinary person takes many as many, is deluded by what he perceives, does not stop to make an inquiry into what is the meaning of what I perceive, takes for granted that what I perceive is really what it is. And therefore, the separatedness that is perceived at the level of body, for example, is taken to be separatedness of the self. And therefore, for this ignorant person, the duality, division, mutual exclusion is real. So when we say that an ignorant person sees duality, it means that he gives reality to duality. The wise person also sees the duality at the level of sense perception, but does not see the duality, meaning does not give reality to duality. As I said yesterday, just as when I am standing in front of parallel mirrors, I see many Swamis, but I do not give reality to manyness, knowing that in spite of the perception of manyness, what there is one. And therefore, there is perception and there is the understanding. So, Dvaita Buddhi is one thing, Dvaita Drishti is one thing, Advaita Buddhi is another thing. Perceiving duality is one thing. But thinking that there is manyness in Atma, that superimposition that automatically takes place because of ignorance, where first there is the conclusion about one's own self, that I am confined to this body, mind, sense complex. I am only this much. And what is outside this boundary is different from me and I am different from them. This is the conclusion. That is called seeing the duality. So, one thing is the sense organs present something. Second thing is what the mind interprets. So, pratiti is one thing and drishti is a different thing. Pratiti, perception. Dvaita pratitihi, the perception of duality. Advaita drishtihi, the conclusion or conviction of non-duality. For an ignorant person, Dvaita pratitihi, Dvaita drishtihi. For a wise person, Dvaita pratitihi, Advaita drishtihi. In that sense, it is said that in his mind's eye, he does not see the duality. With the physical eyes or physical organs of perception, he experiences the manyness. But he does not interpret that as manyness of Atma. Advaitvatah, with the knowledge of Advaitvam, or non-duality, knowledge of one's own self, that I am just consciousness. Like space cannot be confined to a part. Even though looking at that, one may feel there is part space and there is cloth space and these two spaces are different. So one may conclude. Who judges the space based on the enclosures? But understand that enclosures do not divide the space. Space is indivisible, undivided and indivisible. So also the Upadhi cannot divide the consciousness. Consciousness is undivided and indivisible, cannot be divided. This is the conviction, this is nischaya. And therefore the perception, tatha cha kurvandapi niskriyasya. He does perform his daily activities of this snana, shaucham, bhikshatanadi. So daily activities a wise person also performs. So kurvandapi, even though performing these actions, niskriyascha, from his own standpoint, he is niskriya. From the standpoint of onlookers, kurvannapi, like an actor. From the standpoint of the spectators, he is begging. From his own standpoint, he does not beg. Similarly, from the standpoint of others, this wise person is doing things. From his own standpoint, he does not, because others judge him based on what his Upadhi is doing. What happens at the vesha or the costume is automatically taken to be happening to the actor, which the enlightened actor does not do. And therefore, the sense of kartrutva, the worship, which is the result of identification of Upadhi, is not there. Sa atmavita. So one who enjoys these characteristics, dvayam tu pashyandapi na pashyati and kurvandapi niskriya, these two characteristics, lakshanas are described here. Sa atmavit, he is the knower of the self, nanyaha, nobody else. I mean, not the other one who thinks that duality is real, who thinks that he is performing actions, who suffers from kartrutvam, sense of doership, and also ahankara, division, aham, mama, idam. He is not atmavit, knower of the self, even though shastrarthajñopi, he may be very well versed with what the scriptures teach, but as long as his own conviction about himself has not changed, so long he is not the knower of the self. And now looking at the 14th, the last verse, the Tikakara says, Shastra Nyaya Anusarena. So Shastra was quoted here. In this particular section, the instruction was based on Shastra. Earlier, it was based on Yukti or reasoning or Nyaya. Shastra, Nyaya, Anusarana. Anusarana in keeping with Shastra, the scriptures, Upanishads, and Nyaya, the reasoning. Svanubhavam Pradarshya. So what is described, the Tikakara says, is Svanubhavam. A wise person describing his own experience, not describing someone else. So in these 13 verses, one's own experience or vision is described. Idanim, now, in conclusion, asmin darshane parinishtitasya kritakrityata bhavati darshan. That not only I am kritakritya, But asmin darshane parinishtitasya. Parinishthita, one who abides in this darshanam, this knowledge, or this vision of one's own self, kritakrityata bhavate. He is kritakritya. Kritam krityam yena saha kritakritya. One who has the satisfaction of having done whatever needs to be done. Not that whatever is done, what needs to be done or something. What is the satisfaction that I have done whatever needed to be done. Ultimately, what matters is how I feel about myself. I feel about myself that I still have to do things, I still have to accomplish something, I have to know, etc. So long, something I am not kritakritya. I feel about myself that I have done whatever needs to be done. I have accomplished whatever needs to be accomplished. I have known whatever needs to be known. That's called complete satisfaction. The dissatisfaction is I still have to do this, I still have to achieve that, I still have to know that. So this kind of desires, they are there in an ordinary person. Because as long as I feel incomplete about myself, as long as I am not satisfied with what I am, I attribute the reason for dissatisfaction to something. Because I have not done that, therefore I am not happy. I have not accomplished that, therefore I am not happy. I have not known that, therefore I am unhappy. I feel unhappy about myself and attribute the reason of that unhappiness to something. It has been my experience now and then that I felt happy when I accomplished something that I wanted. I felt happy when I knew something that I wanted to know. I felt happy when I completed what I needed to do. So therefore, my experience has been that happiness comes when I did something what I needed to do. I knew something that I needed to know. I accomplished something that I needed to accomplish. So that is where that conclusion remains. And therefore a human being finds himself or herself being prompted to do something, know something, accomplish something, achieve something. So that is a sign of incompleteness about oneself, dissatisfying oneself. Kritakrityata bhavati, all that dissatisfaction, because it was dissatisfaction from oneself. I always complain about things around me, never happy with them, but I never found them perfect. And my definition of perfection kept on changing, so I never found them perfect. Even if next time they were what I wanted to be, then my needs, my expectation has changed anyway. All this will continue as long as I am not happy with myself. All my complaint, dissatisfaction, everything outside is all rooted in my dissatisfaction with myself. Kritakrityata. One finds oneself completely satisfied with oneself. If the self is body, there cannot be satisfaction. If the self is mind, there cannot be satisfaction. Self is intellect, there cannot be satisfaction. So as long as I judge myself based on body, sense organs, mind, intellect, etc. There is always incompleteness. And therefore, a lack of self-satisfaction. I may attribute my dissatisfaction with myself to some other things. And so I keep doing something out there. Either joining something or breaking something, whatever. So that thing never goes. That is all the expression of dissatisfaction, bondage. Kritakrityada bhavati. So what ultimately one has to accomplish is to discover satisfaction with myself. Santosha, satisfaction, the value is one thing. So that also is good. That a value I have decided that I am going to be content with what I have. That's value. I don't feel, but this is my value. When that contentment becomes a reality, then all the restlessness comes to a stop. So freedom from all restlessness, all struggle, all conflict. Call it freedom. So kritakrityata bhavati asmin darshane parinishchitasya. What is the darshanam? Kurunnapi nishkriyaha pashyannapi na pashyati, etc. Mahatmanam tatra shoka mohata. There is no shoka moha. Iti darshayan. This is what the author wants to show. And then also wants to clarify again. Paranugrahaya prakarana nirmane pravruttihiti. This thing came earlier also. What was the need for you to take the trouble of composing this text? It was only out of karuna. Earlier the answer was that seeing the people suffering for no reason, and seeing that they do not know how to become free from their suffering. Everybody is struggling to become free from suffering, but that does not accomplish what they want. Sometimes suffering grows. Seeing this, they are misguided. Ajnanantar ghanapatitan. They are all fallen in the deep forest of ignorance, which has caught fire. And they are trapped in the fire. The flames coming in from all directions and burning them. Seeing this life and seeing that unless they gain the self-knowledge, there is no way out. Atmavidyopadeshai tratum lokan. And therefore helping or rescuing people from this forest fire of life. Atmavidyopadesha himadi, upadesha of Atmavidya. So that's how the motivation for the whole activity was this. That Mahatmas are always compassionate, are always very kind, very sensitive to the suffering of others. So that was the reason given for composing the text. Same thing here. Paranugrahaya. So this text or this even chapter is composed Paranugrahaya, for anugraha or favor towards others. As Bhashyakara explains in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, Swaprayojanam apashyan. Why does Lord Krishna do this? There is no prayojanam there. But to lift Arjuna from the ocean of Shoka and Moha. So Paranugrahaya Prakarana Nirmana Pravritti. The pravritti, the effort of Prakarana Nirmanam, of composing this Prakaranam, this chapter or this text, is Para Anugraha, for helping others, favoring others. So the 14th verse says, Iti idamuktam paramartha darshanam maya hi vedanta vinischitam param vimuchyatesmin yadi nischito bhaved nalipyate vyoma iveha karmavihi. Iti idam paramartha darshanam uktam. Iti, in this manner, idam paramartha darshanam. This darshanam, this vision of paramartha, of the reality, the absolute reality, as compared to the vyavaharika satta, pratibhasik vyavaharika satta, the paramadik satta. Because taking the vyavaharik satta as real has caused all the problems. So, paramartha darshanam uktam maya. This isn't said by me. The paramartha darshanam is something that you have thought about. It says no, Vedanta Nishchitam is something that is Nishchitam, ascertained by Vedanta. So, this is the artha or Nishchaya or the conclusion of Vedanta, conviction of Vedanta, meaning that it is not something that is mine. This Paramartha Darshanam, this vision of Paramartha or absolute reality is Vedanta Nishchaya. It is not my Nishchaya, it is Nishchaya of Vedanta. So Tikakara says, Vedanta Vinishchitam iti Ukta Darshanasya Paramartha Vishatve Pramana Muktam or Pramanya Muktam. Therefore, Paramartha Darshanam is qualified, Visheshanam. Vedanta Vinishchitam Paramartha Darshanam iti Ukta Darshanasya. Of Darshanam, the vision that is stated here, Paramartha Vishatve Pramana Muktam. Vedanta, you can say Vedanta Pramana. So Darshanasya Pramana Muktam. This Darshanam has a Pramana. What's the means of knowledge? Vedanta is a Pramana. Or Vedanta Vinashya is a Pramana. And my Nishchaya is in keeping with Vedanta Nishchaya. So, that is important, that this is basically Nishchaya Vedanta. Therefore, who is the founder of Hinduism? Who is the founder of physics, chemistry, this, that? No founder. It's a knowledge that is the collection of the vision of so many rishis. There is no one founder. So Vedanta Vinishchaya is the Nishchaya of a number of rishis, not just one. And that is why it becomes trustworthy. If one person says, and we should have trust in that one person, that he cannot go wrong, which may be so, but here it is not the vision of one person, it is something that is the conclusion of a number of people. They are all in agreement with this. Take anyone, a given Upanishad may be called the vision of a given Rishi if you want to. But that is why Brahma Sutra shows here Samanvaya, Ekavakyata, the consistency. All Upanishads are consistent with the vision of Jiva, Brahma, Aikyam. The identity of Jiva and Brahma is the vision of every Upanishad, not one. And because different rishis say, therefore they may say things in their own way. And therefore, perhaps from a superficial understanding or examination, they may appear to be contradicting each other or differing from each other. So therefore, all these what were thought to be differences or contradictions were all taken for vichara or analysis. And the conclusion arrived at was that all of them have the same tatparya, the same purport, the same intended meaning. Even the words may be different, and word meaning may appear to be different, but the intended meaning is the same. So it's not one person. Vedanta is a collection of his knowledge. Although this, our Swami won't accept these different rishis and stuff like that. I'm just following the thinking of Bada Swami. But this is Ishvara. And Ishvara is revealed to different rishis, so it doesn't belong to rishi also. Ishvara Proktam. But Vedanta Vinishchitamiti Ukta Darshanasya Paramartha Vishatve Pramana Uktam. So Ukta Darshan is Paramartha Vishayam. Darshana stated here has Paramartha as its vision. For that, Vedanta is a Pramanam or Vedanta Vinishchitam. So Brahma Sutra tells us a Vinishchaya, Nishchitam Artham Vedanta. By analyzing the various statements of Upanishads, the conclusion that is arrived at is that all of them are consistent in revealing the same truth. Truth cannot be more than one. Therefore, it cannot be that one says something and another one says something else. Maya Uktam. So author brings himself here in more than one places. It has been stated by me. I have stated that. What I have stated? Vedantartha Vinishchitam Param Paramartha Darshanam. The Paramartha Darshanam, the vision of the absolute reality, which is ascertained meaning of the Vedantas, is what has been stated by me, is what I have stated. I have not stated something of my own. Have you just stated that? Well, Swangabhavam Pradarshya. This is my conviction also. I am not just repeating what Vedanta says. But then I have said things in my own words. What Vedanta teaches has been assimilated by me. And therefore vision of Vedanta has become my vision. And I have unfolded my vision. Meaning, that means that I have taken support of the Vedanta, no doubt about that. But still, it is unfolded by me. So Svanubhavam Pradarshya. This is the expression of the author's own knowledge, own experience, which is in keeping with the Vinishchaya of the Vedanta. So this is one part, Svanubhavam Pradarshya. Shastra Nyaya Anusarana. That what I have stated is in keeping with my Anubhava, my experience, which again is keeping with Shastra and Nyaya. Vedanta and the reasoning also has been provided. Then, Idanim, this is what is stated in the first two lines, first half. Asmin darshane parinishtitasya kritakrityata bhavati. Anybody also can benefit from this. Just as I have benefited from this vision that Vedanta has provided, anybody also can gain the same benefit. Vimuchyate asmin yadi nischito bhaved. Yadi asmin paramartha darshane Vinishchito bhaved. Anyone else? And this Upanishads conclude this way all the time. That anybody also gets this knowledge. And so, asmin paramartha darshane yadi nischito bhaved. One develops the conviction about this darshana in one's own self. That conviction has to happen. It's not an intellectual process. With intellect I understand. But still my own mind must say that I am so and so. When my mind says that I am Brahma, and from that knowledge all the asambhavana, viparita bhavana, samshaya bhavana, all the obstacles have gone away. So tiva nirmalam jnanam, knowledge has become free of all obstacles. So parinishthita means that whatever pratibandhakas are there, obstacles are there, are all dealt with. Vimuchyate asmin yadi nischito bhaved. Anyone also develops or discovers the same conviction, vimuchyate, he also becomes liberated. He explained this, kruta krutyata bhavati. Visheshena muchyate. He becomes liberated. Not temporarily, but permanently, meaning that he discovers that liberation is his own nature, which was described as kruta krutyata bhavati. In his life, there is complete satisfaction with oneself. Never complete satisfaction with everything. Na lipyate vyoma iveha karma vihi. This karma business keeps on coming up because Janma was discussed. There is no rebirth. Because when the seed is not there, the fruit is not there. When the cause is not there, effect is not there. So karma is the cause for the birth. Of course, karma has its own cause, namely ignorance, avidya, kama, karma. But the evident reason for birth is karma. Why I am what I am, where I am born, that's all determined by karma. So karma can be said to be the reason or cause for janma. So he is not born again. So therefore, karma bihi na lipyate. The problem is that even if we dealt with all the sanchita karma, that by knowledge that I am Brahman, all the karma that are performed by the Jivatma, they are no more now applicable to the wise person, because that entity that performed the actions because of ignorance is no more. Like the actions performed by a dreamer are no more binding to the waker, because the dreamer is gone, completely gone. Next day, that dreamer won't come back. Similarly also, the Jiva Atma who performed the action is completely gone, because he was the product of ignorance. Just as dreamer is the product of the nidra, the dosha or the defect of sleep. So also the ego, the karta, was a product of the dosha of ignorance. When that ignorant dosha is gone, then that karta is no more. Meaning that the wise person is no more accountable for the actions performed by the Jivatma. This is important. Otherwise, the karma will give rise to his phala. And therefore, this is what Vedanta teaches. The law of karma is that one who has performed the karma is accountable for experiencing the result of the karma. You cannot escape it. Kalpa koti shataihi, any number of kalpas can go, that karma will chase you. So this is a complex here in this Vedic culture, based on kartavya, based on the law of karma, which is a uniqueness about the Vedic culture. And so that complex is always there. Karma is there, so the karma phala is there. And you perform karma, you cannot escape karma phala. So you perform karma in the past births, you have been performing karma in this birth also, and still you escape the phala. So that is what Vedanta teaches. You escape because the one who performed the karma is no more. So therefore, na lipyate. Even though the sanchita karma are gone, like the karma of a dreamer are gone when he wakes up, and the prarabdha karma is exhausted, but so-called kriyamana karma, the karma that is being performed by the wise person apparently, a karma must necessarily give us to the result. We find the wise person performing karma, snana, shaucha, bhikshatanadi. So that will produce result. Na lipyate, neva kinchit karometi, yukto manyeta tattvit, pashyan shrunun spushan jigran, ashnan gachan swapan shvasan. Indriyani indriyateshu vartante iti dharayan. Neva kinchit karometi, yukto manyate. The yogi, the wise person, knows that I do not do anything. You are talking and eating and drinking, and who is doing that? Indriyani indriyartheshu vartante. My sense organs are interacting with the sense objects. I don't do anything. My eyes are interacting with the colors and forms. That's called the act of seeing. But I am not the seer. My faculty of hearing is interacting with the sound, and that's called whatever sounds are heard. I am not the hearer. So hearing takes place for the wise person. For us, I hear and I see and I talk. For the wise person, hearing takes place, seeing takes place, talking takes place. For ignorant person, all these things take place. Not that it is different. But then I add my 2 cents in there. What is happening by itself? I take the ownership of that and claim that I did this. And then suffer the consequences. And therefore, to experience the consequences, I have to take another birth. This is another thing here. This is samsara, means the chain of birth and death. So the description of samsara will be given differently by different traditions. Here is given as the chain of birth and death. One way of giving. Or shoka moha. But ultimately shoka moha brings about karma, brings about janma. So the big complex about punarjanma. I don't want to born again. And so that will also not be there. Nalipyade. So karma bihi nalipyade. Yadi nishchito bhavet. If the person becomes convinced about this vision, that I am akarta, I am actionless self, nalipyade karma bihi, then is no more tainted by karma. Atma is never tainted by karma anyway. Not that formerly Atma was tainted by karma and when the knowledge has taken place, now it does not get tainted. That is not so. That's all discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. Never gets tainted. Even when we think that Atma is tainted, it does not get tainted. So now there is known, that's all. What was always a fact now has become a reality for the wise person. Because knowledge does not change anything. Knowledge simply reveals what is. Ignorance creates the appearance of what is not. So where kartrutva, doership is not there in Atma, ignorance creates the appearance of kartrutva, the doership in Atma, in I. The knowledge reveals that no, there is no doership. It is not that when the fellow is ignorant that if the Atma was getting tainted and now it doesn't get tainted. Atma is same. Nature of Atma is not same. Now he realizes I never get tainted. It's not that I am not now being tainted. I never got tainted. Nalipyade karma bihi. Example is given, Vyoma iva. So Tikakara says, Vyoma eva iti visandhihi vritta purnarthaha. That sandhi has not taken place there. What should be the reading? Vyoma eva iha karma bihi. What should have been there? Vyome veha karma bhi. So A plus C becomes A. Anyway, that is not done because then the chando bhanga, then the meter would be, that would not be followed. So there is a different reading. Vyoma eva iha, then there would be no problem. Vyomavat eva iha, if that was the reading, then sandhi is okay. Anyway, Vyoma eva karma bhi, just as Vyoma, all the space never gets tainted. So he, Atma never gets tainted consciousness. Now he doesn't get tainted, the knower of the self. Now this is interpreted as Paranugrahaya Prakarana Nirmane by Tikakara. The author doesn't say that I have composed this out of compassion for others. But the only reason why a wise person or Mahatma would do is only out of compassion because there is no need of his own. So Tika says, Paranugrahaya Prakarana Nirvana Suchayati. Doesn't say that. That I have done this for helping others out of compassion for others. The author doesn't say, but Suchayati. Because he is not tainted by karma. And he is already vimuchyate, he is already liberated. That means that there is no motivation of any kind. There is no more any agenda left for him, for the author. Meaning that normally what we do is motivated by a personal agenda. That's called Atmanastu Kamaya. That Kama of Atma means for personal agenda, self-interest. Atma Kama is self-interest. Everybody acts out of self-interest. But Vimuchyate, what is liberation? Liberation from self-interest. Liberation from personal agenda. This is a big load on our head. This self-interest is a big burden. The agenda, my personal agenda is a big, we don't realize that. That is really a big load on my head. And I think that personal agenda, I keep on fulfilling, not realizing that I fulfill my agenda, other agenda comes up. So liberation means liberation from personal agenda. Liberation from the need to exercise free will. So it's like floating, like a leaf, like a dry leaf that falls from the tree and simply floats in the air because it has no destination. So also the wise person earlier also is compared to a dry leaf, no destination, no agenda. If there is no agenda, then what prompts a person to do something? Self-agenda is a sign of bondage. We are very smart when we fulfill our agenda and think that we accomplish, we become victory, etc., which is fine. In the world that is all okay. But when it comes to Paramartha, Adhyatmika thing, then we realize that the agenda itself is a bondage. He is free from agenda. Then why should he do? So Paranugrahaya, that's what the Tikakara says. The author has not stated that I am doing it out for others. But since there is no other reason at all for doing anything or in composing this text or this prakarana on the part of the author, the indication is that this is done for fulfilling agenda of others. So that is not binding. Karma that is performed purely for fulfilling the agenda of others without any taint of self-agenda, that karma does not bind. Gata sangasya muktasya jnana vasya chetasah yajñāyācharatah karma samagram praviliyate. Yajñāyācharatah karma. His karma is purely as yajna, as a worship, as an offering, self-offering. Samagram praviliyate. That karma becomes completely merged along with the phala. Samagram. Meaning that the karma performed does not bring about any result for the performer of karma. Because what brings about the result for the performer is not the karma, is the agenda. Karma will bring about result, all right. But where will the result attach it? Where will the result attach itself to? To the one who has agenda. No agenda, result. God knows where it goes. That is not stated by Gita. If it doesn't come to perform of karma, those who are adept in accounting of karma, they have to explain. If it doesn't come to you, where will it go? It will go into the universal store or something. I don't know. Add up into some positive, energy, vibration, whatever they call it. And therefore, the conclusion is that since vimuchyate, since the author also is liberated, visheshana mukta, So there is no personal agenda at all. And still the act of composing the prakarana has taken place. So what is without motivation nothing happens. Prayojanam can be called motivation. Without motivation nothing happens. So paranugrahaya, therefore paranugraha is a motivation which makes him do things. He is made to do things by the compulsion that is created by the paranugraha, by this pressure of helping others. Bhagavan will not leave anybody. Although there are people who live in the forest or live in caves, etc. Not that everybody is doing something. But Bhagavan will not do this kind of people. Make them do things. So it is suchayati, this is the suchanam, that this is done for paranugraha. This is how the iti dashamam dushiswarupa paramatha darshana prakaranam. Dushiswarupa paramatha darshanam. Darshanam, the vision of the self, which is dushiswarupa, of the nature of consciousness. So that has been the theme or the subject matter of this chapter of 10th chapter. So we are concluding with the conclusion of the 10th chapter. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.